Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Deepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. Eric's trying to leave, but no, we have to introduce what we just discussed.
I do two other podcasts. They don't have introductions, so I always forget.
That's lame.
Yeah, it is lame.
Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. Eric Deepen of The Village is across the table trying to leave. Andy Littleton is my name. I'm from Mission Church, not the the Mission Church in Tucson, and we host Faith Over Breakfast, which means we sit down and talk about something pertaining to faith at breakfast time. I haven't had breakfast. You probably have. That explains a lot. Today, it's a listener question from Bob on forgiveness, a follow-up question to a previous podcast of ours. Perhaps you could link it in the show notes, Eric.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to find that.
Yeah, that'd be great. So anyway, what about apologies, and what about a person owning it? How critical is that to the process of forgiveness? So we go there, and at the end,
predestination.
We attempt to talk predestination and biblical hermeneutics and the Reformation era and the Enlightenment for a second,
all in 5 minutes.
And I'm sure we get way in over our heads.
Yep. We were swimming in the deep waters, and then you pulled us out and said we need to be done.
Thank goodness. Somebody had to do it. Okay. There you go.
Enjoy, guys.
Enjoy. Wishes he was as ahead of the curve as we are.
Yeah, I think he makes a little bit more money than we do in his podcast.
Well, of course he does. Eric, everybody makes more money. But you know what? That means we're the real deal.
We're the real deal.
We're not in it for the money.
10 years.
We've probably made...
money.
How much have we made? If you were talking profit margins,
Zero.
Negative $400,000.
The money that has come in has not paid for the equipment yet, I don't think.
Well, let alone our time, and let alone our intellectual capital.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Maybe your intellectual capital.
Oh, no, you're the one with the capital. And you got a knee brace on, Eric. What's going on?
I just have some issues with my knee.
Yeah. I just finished the biography, a biography of Pistol Pete Maravich. And,
my favorite dude. Have you watched his instructional videos?
Well, I've seen some of them. My memoir project, 2,000 Miles to Wrigley, plug, follow it on Patreon, since I'm trying to care about my intellectual capital. But my friend Sam growing up was trained on the... on homework basketball or the instructional videos.
My brother, too.
Therefore, I was influenced indirectly because I'd go over to his house and his dad was making us do the drills.
Yep.
And I'm sure that has factored into my ability to shoot. And I didn't really master the dribbling stuff. Eric, when you grow up in a mobile home in a dirt lot.
Yeah, dribbling.
Well, no, it's not an excuse.
It's not. You could have dribbled a tennis ball all over the place,
and I dribbled, and we got a hoop eventually that my dad fished out of a monsoon storm situation. It was coming down the river.
You'd have such great stories,
right?
This should be not Faith Over Breakfast, but it's just Andy's story time.
That's right. So I did have a hoop, and I did practice, but I probably skimped on the dribbling because it was challenging in the dirt. But that's not an excuse, Eric.
You could figure it out. You could have been a contender.
Yeah, I could have dribbled around the house, but it was also a mobile home, and when you dribble in a mobile home,
you could have gone on long walks.
It shakes the whole house. No, for real. Yeah. No, if I'd wanted to, but
you could have.
If I really wanted to,
you could have been a contender.
If I'd been like Pistol Pete. But anyway, he hurt his knee, and this is just making me think about his knee. I finished this book today, Eric, because I flew in. My flight was so delayed that I finished this book.
There you go.
At 1:30 a.m. today.
Huh. All right.
Yeah. And then here I am.
Here you are. And you said sleepy, but you look wide awake.
I feel good.
Good.
Surprisingly, I had a restful trip, and so
That's
I guess
good.
the one
It's
long
a man who just rests.
the
all
one
time.
long day didn't destroy me.
So are you wearing new glasses or are these old glasses?
I've had these. Yeah.
Are those like those clip-on ones where you can clip on different colors?
Mm-mm.
That looks like
No. These are probably 2 prescriptions behind,
Oh, yeah.
but I still
Mine
wear
are
them.
that way. I need to go to
Yeah.
the eye doctor.
Yeah. My contacts are up to speed, but these are behind.
The glasses are behind. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Anyway, there you go. That's the preamble.
The preamble to the podcast.
Yeah, and because of all this, and I slept as long as I possibly could, I've given even less thought to the topic than you. No, or have you?
Well,
What are we talking about?
I
Eric?
saw the email. And
Pistol Pete, or you're firing back emails at people. The emails I forgot we got emails.
Yeah, we got emails.
Well,
Do you mind if I grab my phone?
Fine. We got 2 from Russ, and then we got a clarifier from Bob. And Bob, he told me, he said, I said maybe we do a whole nother episode on this, and he seemed to think that was not necessary. Just some thoughts.
So
we could go after any or one of those.
Yeah. So let's see. This is from Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to the recent podcast on forgiveness, and maybe I missed it. But aside from the tiny bit about getting an apology and what that looks like, there wasn't much about the importance of the offending party asking for forgiveness. People often apologize for themselves without really wanting forgiveness.
Oh, right.
Like, can you even grant mercy to someone who doesn't want it? How does this reflect on your view of the whole? And then he pulls out of the can
a big one.
The predestination. Yeah. It's not just predestination thing.
Yeah. No, Bob, this is a great clarifier and question.
Yeah.
You cannot set the
I'm
phone
setting it
down.
right on here because I might want to look at the rest things. Okay,
it's
fine.
just gonna make. I know your phone. It's gonna buzz.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to our listeners, people like Corey and Colleen and Russ and Bob, and I'm sure there are many others. But those are the ones who ask us questions.
It's great.
So let's go to Christian.
Christian.
I have. Hey,
Brian.
By the way, Christian, we've not heard a question from you. Yours are always good. Send us one.
They're all
Brian.
They're all good. Yep.
Let's get it together here.
So, they're the frequent flyers, and we'd love a new frequent flyer.
We would. And can you attach $3 to your frequent flying?
Oh, there you go.
Cash in the mail.
That will cover Eric's intellectual capital.
My knee.
And his knee. Okay. No, this is good. Let's start with Bob's. So,
so would you like me to give our definition of forgiveness or mine, and then we can?
Sure.
Because I think if I remember correctly, what came out of that is that forgiveness is about giving up one's right to justice.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to live a life of faith? What does it mean to live as a Catholic Christian? Hi, this is Bishop Kevin Sweeney, host of the podcast Beyond the Beacon. Join me as we unravel and discuss the mysteries of our faith, of the church, of living as Catholic Christians. Be inspired by engaging interviews with priests and seminarians, deacons, religious, women and men who live the life of faith day by day here in our Diocese of Patterson, in food pantries and classrooms and parishes and ministry. How is God working in their lives today? How is God working in our lives? Join me as I ask them and be part of the conversation on Beyond the Beacon. Listen and follow Beyond the Beacon wherever you get your podcasts, or watch it on my YouTube channel. Please check the show notes for more details. Thank you and God bless you.
Yeah. That's right.
And we
and
were
that's part
working
of
with that idea.
Yeah, and then I want to explore the idea of, and I did not come to this prepared, so this is the true faith over breakfast, which is, folks, true faith over breakfast.
You would plop down, be, hey, Eric, what do you think about forgiveness? Could you just talk to me about that for a little bit? That's how it would be.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, what do you think about forgiveness?
And you're invited to the table. That's this podcast. It's not we've come with
we
a
represent
treatise.
You by a weight sitting in a chair.
There's a kettlebell sitting in a chair, and that's you right now. So okay, give that definition of forgiveness, and then I want to talk apology a little bit.
Well, I think so. What I think this is true to Scripture, and actually true to research, and that is that forgiveness is not saying, hey, what you did to me, I forgive you, and now we can be in full relationship. Forgiveness is saying, I, regardless if you request it or not, give up my right to exact justice on you for what you did to me.
Yeah.
So I will no longer choose to think about you in a way that is demeaning to your image bearing, no matter what you've done. I will no longer attempt to punish you for what you've done.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that if, say, let's take the worst thing, you murdered my brother. That's not the worst, but it's a good one. Then I'm going to say, well, I give up the right to justice, so justice itself, the arm of the law, doesn't have to punish you, right? It's just saying, I am giving that up because Jesus already paid the price for what you've done on the cross. So I'm not going to punish you for it.
Yeah.
That's how I understand it. And it works really well in relationship. It still can have a boundary. Like if you every time I see you say terrible, horrible things to me, I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to have a boundary. I'm not going to be able to be around you because you say hard things to me, but those past things you said, I forgive you. I'm not going to punish you for that, but I'm not going to also be around you unless God says you need to be around him and endure those things.
But it would have a lot to do with your motive. To not forgive would be to hold that prior offense and bring it out and use it to exact revenge, perhaps, or payment. Like you have to pay. So even giving somebody the silent treatment can absolutely be a form of non-forgiveness. But to forgive, doesn't have to mean like, hey, we're buds, everything's good. But it can mean I'm not going to punish you with this deed you've done.
Yeah. And I think we always end up in the forgiveness things in these major events, like how could I forgive my dad who abused me, or how can I forgive this? But the reality is most of the day I'm having to be forgiven and forgive just the people I'm hanging out with, right? Yep. Because we say and do and think things that are demeaning to the image of God in the other person. Mm-hmm. And so we have to live a life of forgiveness. This is why Peter asks, like, well, how many times do I have to forgive my brother? This is why Paul says in Romans, I live, like, I try to live at peace with all people. I do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
To the best of my ability.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about, so the trip I was just on, I took a trip with my daughter, which was really good. And we had some clunky times together in the past year and a half. And so in a way, I'm really grateful for opportunities to just invest in the relationship. And so looking for opportunities to chat about some of that prior stuff. And we had one thing came up. She made a little comment and I said, oh, is that how you view that conversation? And she told me how she viewed that previous conversation. And I actually have a different angle on it, right? Right. But I was able to hear a feeling that she had, and genuinely I didn't want her to have that feeling because of it. And so I told her, this is me transitioning now to apology. But I told her, well, I'm sorry. I didn't want to make you feel that, and I'm sorry I did.
Yeah.
And I meant it. Sometimes that can be like, oh, sorry you felt that way. I think that wasn't my intent, and I don't think she felt that way.
Yes. Good.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know that she stated a formal forgiveness of me in that moment. See me blending the two here, but it seemed as if she was able to grant something like, okay, yeah, thanks, like,
Sure.
and there was an acknowledgement. And I think that's what Bob's question's getting at now is how important is the acknowledgement of the other person, of the pain? Because it's one thing to forgive a person you judge needs it.
Sure.
But do they need to believe they need it? I think that was in Bob's question. Do they need to believe they need it? Do they need to acknowledge they need it for there to be forgiveness? And then I do want to transition to this whole apology thing. I think it's really I've been thinking about it a lot.
Well, I think you're talking about reconciliation, which is different than forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is involved in reconciliation.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to reconcile with someone if you haven't already forgiven them, actually.
Yes.
I do think on the apology side of things.
Can you actually work that out a little more? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well,
like just how would you differentiate between forgiving a person and reconciling? I think most of us have a sense, but
well, I think reconciliation, if there's a thing, I mean, a lot of times reconciliation, if you like say it's in a marriage or if reconciliation in relationship, usually guess there's one bigger offender, but there are two offenders usually. And so
right.
Reconciliation has a lot of complexity because there has to be acknowledgement of the situation in both parties. But when you have a single offender, and so then that person has to apologize, and you have to already be in a place where you're like, I've already forgiven you. Like, I'm already removed the need to punish you, so I can actually hear you.
Yeah.
Like, it makes it very hard to hear somebody if you haven't forgiven them. Then if they say, hey, I didn't mean to do it, then that's not a great apology. Right. I liked I really think you landed on what a good apology is that what actually you didn't do well as a father in that other space that may have happened differently than your daughter experienced it was having a full knowledge, like being connected enough to her
right
to have a full knowledge of how she was experiencing the event and being concerned about that.
Right. How it was impacting her specifically.
Yes. Yeah. And so what you're apologizing for is like, hey, like maybe this isn't exactly how it happened, but I was not attentive to you.
I was unaware of of the deeper question you were wrestling with.
And that allows the person who's been wronged to not only like live in their forgiveness, but now they have to step forward vulnerably and be like, okay, yeah, I accept that. And now I can move into, I can trust you. I can at least begin to trust you because you see me. So, I think reconciliation has a lot to do with rebuilding trust.
Yeah.
And rebuilding trust only comes when you can be humble and come with an open hand.
Yeah.
And not get offended when somebody's like, oh, this is how, okay, well, I need to hear you and understand how I've impacted you.
Yeah.
And being concerned about how you impact people, not worried like, oh no, I impacted them correctly, and like always freaking out about it, but more just conscious of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think.
How would you suggest once you've figured out that sometimes you hurt or offend people, how to be conscious of that and not do the thing you just alluded to that was like, oh no,
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Oh, well.
And how do you?
Sometimes it's just temperament.
Sure.
Right? Some of us are a little bit more, and others of us are just like, I don't even remember doing it last time.
Sure.
So,
it helps. It's a little easier to be that way. But then the more anxious type is more attentive too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're concerned about how you impact people. I mean, I've gone on both sides, like where I'm like, hey, like I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Am I hearing? I don't want to have this impact, and then it's just annoying at some level.
Yeah.
It's like, just be you.
Just relax. Yeah.
And on the other hand, like just not being observant ends up making you kind of flippant with your language. Because usually most of the forgiving we're doing is language and then action based on that language, right? So we say something that's hurtful. We don't offer our time in a way that's attentive to someone. Yeah, so I mean, it's all around selfishness in language, selfishness in time. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but
yeah. Well, so the whole apology thing, I've thought I get a little hung up on the words, and I know language changes.
Sure.
But I think we've made a bit of a mess of the language of this in our culture. So,
sure.
I feel like apology has turned into maybe like the word is just admit, like the one that when we use the word apologize or say you're sorry, what we mean is admit it.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think those words were supposed to mean admit it.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think we've got this whole, and again, like I get that language changes, but I think there was a nuance that used to exist between some of these terms that is actually really helpful. So the first one I've thought a lot about is sorry. The way that I actually don't know that my parents did this with me. I think I've seen it in a lot of other people. Was sorry was a cleanup word you say to erase something, but I don't think it actually erases it, really.
Right.
So your brother hits you, and parent says, "Don't hit him. Tell him you're sorry. I'm sorry." Okay. But the trust is not rebuilt just because of that admission. And so sorry in our English language once meant sorrow or grief. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that we know the difference between when a person is grieved by what they've done,
right,
and when they're just willing to admit something.
Right.
It's very different. And when you talk about like forgiveness and reconciliation, like I think this gets at Bob's. I think there's acknowledgement, and I think there's sorrow and grief, and I think that sorrow and grief can lead to much deeper places and healing in a relationship, right? And it's true that some people will not get there or offer that, and forgiveness can still be offered, but maybe to your point, it's not going to lead to a full reconciliation,
right?
Because that sorrow of how I impacted you doesn't occur. Apology is interesting because we know this from our theology backgrounds, but apologetics are not saying you're sorry for things, it's arguing.
Right.
And actually that's where the word apology comes from, is an apology is your argument. And it's funny, I just briefly looked up like how did it change, and it basically is it's Greek for the argument. And it's kind of a nonsensical change in English. It just kind of got goofed up in English to where, but I think that the apology would be when you talk to somebody and you say, that's not what I meant. Or you misunderstood or something, and I think there is a place for that.
Sure.
But it's different than to be grieved or sorrowful for something you've done. And I think we know and feel the difference, and that's just a whole different category of conversation. And so when I wonder, with Bob, with like the acknowledgement that he wonders about what, sometimes a person reads it differently and they have an apology, meaning an argument. Sometimes they're grieved. Sometimes they need to give their apology and hear your apology, your side. And the only way their grief could come is by actually having that conversation.
Sure. Yeah, like hearing.
And then is that a guarantee? No, of course not. Yeah.
I wonder, like, I think an apology is, yes, an argument. I think it's, what are you arguing for? I think a good apology and a helpful one to someone who's been wronged is to give an argument for what you did wrong.
Sure.
Like to say, saying this to you was hurtful and wrong, and I know that it that affected you poorly. It's not a way a Christian should behave, and not how someone who loves you should behave. Will you please forgive me? Like, that's an argument for what you did.
That explain, and that would be, I would say, that's probably a type of apology.
Right, yeah, it's a type. And I think it's a healthy way, because what it says is, I value you as a human being, and I have a code of ethics that I've violated, and I violated my creator, and I need to make this right for us to be in relationship and for you to regain trust in me. I think those are, like, I trust people who say, I know you, what I did was not good, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Will you please forgive me? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Like, if they're, I
already have, or I'm working on it. I'm trying to, like, it's going to be hard.
And I've had these conversations. I mean, these tend to happen in the closer relationships where you know somebody well, but it's like, I was in a bad place. I knew that I would get you off my back by doing this. Yeah. And I chose to. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't cool to you, but that feels like an argument for like, almost like, you felt hurt. I'm going to give you more. Yeah. I'm going to explain to you exactly why I did that. And it doesn't make it better. Like, oh, okay, well, no problem then. It's like, no, actually I had more intent than you knew.
Yeah. I mean, the way I always look at forgiveness is, I imagine, like, say you and I had something where one of us hurt the other. I always imagine as the two of us, if we're followers of Jesus, standing beneath the cross, and Jesus saying, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And I would be able to offer you good and deep forgiveness if I wasn't wrestling with the cloaks of Jesus, basically, the useless things that
you're talking about, how the centurions like gambled over his garments. They had this whole other value system, their obsession that led them to respond that way at the foot of the cross.
But if I'm looking at the cross and you're looking at the cross, and now it's empty, but if you imagine with Jesus that, like, they're like, oh, like, for what's happening between me and Andy, Jesus died. And that is a renewing force, and that is because it's an empty cross and an empty tomb, and so we can hold on to that instead of the stupid metaphorical cloak that we're wrestling over. And that's helpful for me to at least begin the process of the conversation, is to continue reorient to the cross and to forgiveness of Jesus. Like, I can't, and for the fact that, like, he looked at people who were, I don't know how valuable his cloak was, but they're just gambling over it because they got nothing better to do while they wait for him to die, probably.
Right, sure.
And it's just like, oh, they don't know that they're gambling over cloak while God dies. It's just a kind of a crazy scene for me.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and that's obviously instructive, right? Like, Jesus is calling out to his Father to forgive. Mm-hmm. Nobody's making an acknowledgement or an argument in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about forgiveness being almost a gateway to being able to have those reconciliation conversations. Like, that would seem to exhibit that on a greater scale. Like, forgiveness is the door through which we can even work out relationship with God and others, as opposed to being the outcome if everything else gets done well.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting that when you look at the New Testament, and particularly at Paul and his relationship with Mark and Barnabas, and then you look at what he's trying to work out theologically of the cross with, like, and the resurrection, bringing, like, Jew and Gentile together in Ephesians 2, and then in Galatians 3, like slave and free, male and female, like the Gentile and Greek, like or Gentile and Jew, like, these are divisions that the fall has built. They're like symbolic divisions, and the cross is trying to undo those, and forgiveness is what does that. And yet Paul is struggling even in his own life to act out reconciliation.
Sure.
And to figure out what it looks like to live at peace with people.
Yeah.
And that's helpful.
Yeah.
That the man who could sit down and be inspired to write Holy Scriptures is also a man who wrestled with forgiveness and didn't always probably get it right.
Sure.
And I think that's a powerful thing for me to kind of hold on to.
Yeah, and I mean, and didn't get it right, but also, I think we tend to want the forgiveness moment to mean it's all good and it goes back to the way it was.
Yes, I was just thinking about that.
And there's two things there. Number one, I think we have to admit our finitude here, right? And maybe how it wasn't actually how it ought to be.
Yeah.
Or how it ought to be anymore. There's just a certain so the Paul and Barnabas example, some people make this argument. It's not the strongest, I don't think, but there is by their division, they go on to do things they would not have done together.
Sure, and God moves and uses all of these things. He is not bound by his fallen people. Yeah,
and you could even, there's a possibility right in there that the scriptures don't really speculate on, but you have to think it through. Like, what if Paul had needed Barnabas? It seemed Barnabas was an encouraging, kind of a bridge building type person for Paul, and Paul had needed that because he was more polarizing. But maybe it was time for Paul to move into the world without that person,
right? To
learn to soften and do that bridge building work himself. Maybe he leaned too much on Barnabas for that and didn't work on his stuff, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, again, speculating. But so there's that whole finitude thing, right? And then I think number two would be just time. Like we want it seems in the Bible that later on even John Mark, who Barnabas wanted to minister with, and Paul did not. It seems like there is a good rapport between them and Paul. Yeah, later.
There is an eventual restoration.
And we don't know exactly how or whatever, but I think when we tend to think of it, I'm guessing that could have been a decade-long process.
Yeah, no, I would think so. I mean, I think I've lived long enough to be in those relationships where you had a friend or someone you were doing ministry with, like so close, so good, and you tasted something very rich, and then it broke up.
Yeah,
and one of you did something stupid, and there was the harsh separation, and then down the road you reconcile, and in that reconciliation, it's like there's a weeping and a reconnection.
Yeah,
but you also like have this deep taste of loss and know that it'll never be or can never be what it was.
Yep.
Until the return of Jesus. Right. Like it creates in a sense like a deep longing for a restoration that can't happen in this time and space.
Yeah.
And that's
and I think that has to be something to wrestle with. And I think, Bob, I know you're still, you're very much thinking through all the ways faith, could tie into your life. And I think that, like the ultimate stuff we're, trying to hold hope for here and kind of grasping that is really important when people don't get the process right, and the apology doesn't happen, and there is I think there's a major gap that the biblical story of restoration fills.
Yes,
that I don't know how to fill otherwise, and I think and it's not that. I don't think that gap being filled means it's all just fine and dandy or it doesn't hurt. It actually maybe even because of holding out hope could hurt more. Because instead of just saying, well, the world is jacked up, oh, well, say it's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I wish it were that way. And I long for the day when it will be. That is actually a harder path sometimes.
Yeah. A couple thoughts while you were talking. I mean, I think, one, I was just thinking if you could possibly, and maybe I'm just not operating in all cylinders, can you explain what he was thinking about on the predestinate end of things? So I'll put that aside for a second. The thought I had is there's a motivation behind forgiveness, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you really are either in a mode of like, I am going to minister and care for someone, or I'm going to try to get what I want from someone. Mm-hmm. Like those are, you don't operate in a neutral space between those. Like I'm either here for you to care deeply about you, or I'm looking to get something. Yeah, now, do I shift back and forth on those two? Yes. And can we mess around with that? Yes. But to forgive someone, I have to say, it's your good that I'm looking for. Like right. You're an image bearer of God, and I want to honor that. And that's the thing I found about forgiveness is it's less about, I give up my right to punish you as much as I'm like, you know what, I want to honor you as an image bearer. I want to celebrate the fact that God created you and he has intention for you and he loves you. Mm-hmm. And when I have that picture, then I can be like, you know, I don't need to punish you.
Yeah.
I can still acknowledge the pain that you've caused, but I don't want to punish you.
Right. Yeah.
Because I want to love you like Jesus loves you.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I mean, I should have just asked Bob specifically on this, but if I had to guess, there's, and Bob, text me if I'm wrong on this, but I would say he is very well read on the various traditions
sure.
of Christianity and other world religions.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not guessing that I know that, and is very much aware of the different versions of faith out there, and was once pretty opposed to all of it, and now is a little more curious as time's gone by. I would guess, that's wrong. He was always curious. But just, you live and you go, oh, I think I was just mad at people, and
sure,
maybe I can listen to Faith Over Breakfast now. And
gotcha.
But I'm guessing that, the predestination thing could, for some people, be just sort of an out, where it's like, well, as a religious person, you could be like, oh, that was going to happen. I did it, but it was predestined. And so what can I do? That's a possible application of that doctrine that I think would be really unhelpful, and I don't think is a good application of it. I think there's like when I was talking about the finitude thing, I think a good application of it would be that God would be telling a big story and writing a big story that we're not fully aware of, and that we can hope in embracing that there can be more meaning to things or clarity, someday. Okay. But I don't think a good application of predestination would be just like, well, my friend, betrayed my trust, and that just is what is what it is. It was just destined
to be.
So it doesn't matter. Because even so, let's, for example, the cross, which you brought up. I mean, in Scripture, there's a sense that the disciples and Jesus definitely believed that this was a foretold event that was going to happen. They allude to many older prophetic words that were foreshadowing this event. They believed that it was a fulfillment of those words, and including things like his betrayal and his arrest and the garment, and that's all there. But at the same time, Jesus, to say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they're doing, speaks into the fact that he doesn't just go like, this was destiny, that there still is a real personal engagement with will and choice that's going on. And so, I don't know, Bob, if you're reading, or if you've looked into like the Reformed faith, or even strict old school Reformed people have a nuance here where they talk about first and second causes, and it gets very complicated.
It does get very complicated,
and they're trying to make a rational case, and sure. I'm not necessarily
not going there.
But even they make space for people can't just chalk a thing up to predestination and not have to own their motives and their choices.
Yeah. I think one of the mistakes, and it is the cause of the Reformation. It is Luther. It rests in Luther and in Calvin. If you were to go back and take the deterministic understandings of predestination that come out of the Reformation, and maybe even out of a few other philosophers of the Catholic Church that the Reformation influenced or was influenced by,
Aquinas
and anyway, if they would look at you and be like, what are you talking about? Because they do not see predestination as anything that we see predestination as. Predestination is like me saying I'm a seepin. People are like, oh, you're predestined. I'd be like, what? No, I'm just a seepin. Like, it's not. It's taking a category,
sure,
and putting in it somewhere that doesn't make sense to them. Part of that is
probably like what we've done with the word apology.
Exactly, and I think some of it is even when the Jewish person looks back and says, oh yeah, see, this is how it was all foretold to be. They're not thinking of it as a linear thing. They're thinking of it as God over all things, and that rule gets revealed in spaces, and then you can look back at that rule and be like, oh yeah, look, in the midst of time and space, God's putting signposts and markers towards something.
Well, an ancient Hebrew mind and an ancient Greek mind later were asking different questions from one another and very different questions from us. And to read the Bible well, you have to understand the questions they were asking.
Yes.
And how the Bible's addressing those. And then you're supposed to say, and then what does that say to us? As opposed to reading it.
Right.
I mean, the way I've described it is like if you read a letter to your great-grandparent, sure. It would be imperative that you understand what was going on in the world and how they thought in order to understand why this letter was meaningful to them. Right. You wouldn't just read it and go, oh, it's written to me. Now and people worry that takes away divine inspiration and whatever, but I actually think it makes it better because
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you dig into that well, you can learn meaningful things. So the idea of sovereignty and of rulers in other realms and stuff in our rational day seems weird and disconnected, but actually we might do well to think about it. And not just in a way like in the right. Rational Western mind wants to say, I need answers for why this happens the way it happens, and I need ways to get out of my guilt, and I need to be able to look at World War II and say, oh, well, it was predestined. I need to be able to, do that.
Sure.
And I don't think that's when the Bible talked about for those he foreknew, he predestined to be conformed to his likeness. I don't think that's what that was about.
No, I don't think it's about that at all. And in fact, I think when Joseph says to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, what he is saying, and if you asked it, he would say, you made choices out of your own volition and your own free will.
And you meant them for evil.
And you meant them for evil. and God rules over your evil, and your evil cannot change his plan.
Right.
Like,
but it doesn't take away because his brothers had experienced the feeling of sorrow for what they'd done.
Sure.
And he wasn't trying to take that away.
Mm-mm.
They needed that process.
Yeah. And I think, so like, I think a Hebrew is very comfortable, at least in my reading of the Old Testament and the New, is comfortable with the rule of God over the free will of man, and not trying to explain how that works.
Yeah, not making it mechanical. And I think like you would come to election, and when you say, well, why are you a Hebrew? Did you choose to be Hebrew? No, I was born a Hebrew. And it's this, and Paul even kind of tries to build that out in Romans of like, okay, I'm in Christ. Well, how are you a Christian? If you ask, how are you a Christian? Well, I'm in Christ. Well, how'd you get to be in Christ? Well, I'm in Christ. Like I'm in the church. What do you mean? Like, I'm not thinking, well, I chose. I'm just professing the reality of what I am. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to work out, did God determine this in the same way? I'm like, yeah, God determined this. I'm his child.
Well, the way Paul described it of himself is that he was like a abnormally born infant. That's how he described his process. Was some children are born normally. My inclusion in Christ was like I was like a breached baby.
Yeah, he was like a C-section.
Like a C-section.
He definitely was a C-section on the road to Damascus.
So how
kept that boy open.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that
pull him out.
And that is just not how we. And I think we would do well to think about that. Yeah, one of the, I don't know, Bob, again, maybe we've strayed so far from your question, but I know you think about these things. And one of the issues with I would say, like, what Western civilization did with Scripture, and I would go beyond that to say, it's the same thing you got at, in university or whatever. Like, everything needed to be mechanized and deductive. And so in the Old Testament, you have a God who is there and who you encounter, and you grapple with his rule and his ever presence and his power. And then I think actually you see that in the New Testament too. Like Paul's abnormal birth on the road to Damascus is not, he doesn't go through a rational process and say, so when he talks about predestination, he doesn't go, that's the formula, that, but in the Reformation, because of the other movements of the Enlightenment, everything had to be scientifically precise. And so a lot of the doctrine of the tradition we're closest to actually explains God in more scientific terms, gives him attributes, which is a scientific way of explaining God. And I'm not saying every bit of that is terrible. I'm just saying it was very shaped by the times as opposed to sometimes by the story.
I think the hermeneutic that we use, say, to read the New Testament and the Old Testament, of like, okay, well, what's the original author saying to the original community before we begin to move up? When we read Luther, we have to say, well, what questions was Luther trying to answer?
Oh, yeah.
And what was he doing here? And so we know his audience, we know what he was trying to do, and now we can extract that. And you know what? The same has to happen to you and me 100 years from now when they listen to this podcast. They're like, well, what questions were they trying?
Yes.
They're trying to answer Bob's question. What was Bob doing? We're trying to answer, whoever.
We're currently speculating.
Right.
By the way, Bob, I've told you this. You should come talk to us in the room here.
Yeah, Bob, we would like something other than a weight.
Yeah. So, you could take the place of the kettlebell.
Yeah. All right.
It's not keeping the chair warm for you, but at least it's
weighing it down.
Weighing it down. Well, I think that's
I think we got to stop.
We should.
But it was really good to talk to you. Sorry I bailed last week, but I was relatively stressed out.
No worries. I can always find things to do, Eric.
You're a pastor, and there's always something to do.
Something I probably should be doing. Yeah. Okay. If you, like Bob, like Russ, like the Gilchrists, want to...
Christian
and Brian, Yes.
Or the few listeners we have in other cities who once in a while talk to us.
Yeah, we would love to
Please
hear
talk to us.
your questions. It gives us, it gets us out of our ruts, if I were to say negatively, or our hobby horses, and it's good.
Yeah, or we just, we just need affirmation.
Eric just wants to know you care.
It's nice
maybe
to
I
know.
care about that.
You
too,
care a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. You probably care a lot more than you want to let anybody know. Deep down, we'll
you can.
You know what?
Next
Next
time. That'd be
podcast.
great.
Does Andy care?
Yes, I do. There you go. There's the podcast. faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. You can text through podcast apps,
and we
we'd
can reply to you now.
Oh, wow.
If you text to us right on the app, we'll reply to you.
Which means Eric will reply to you, which is great.
I'll be
That's who
happy
you
to
really
reply.
want to talk to.
Yeah, you really want to talk to me.
We look forward to, being with you all again. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep. You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.